Hey guys, for today we're talking about a new quest type that got added to NGS called Time Extension Quests. You can find these easily enough at the quest counter under a new tab, Time Extension Quests. You'll see two of them available in a given day. But this does change daily between Cabarrus ones, as you see right now, and then Retem ones. For both of these types, they have an easier version at 3731 battle power, and then a harder version at 4050 battle power. This could be quite hard to get to, especially if you have not been upgrading as of late. With all these though, they have the same premise. We're going to be killing set waves of enemies and trying to kill them as fast as you can, because you're working against a timer. However, every enemy that you kill actually adds more time to the clock. To aid you in doing this, they added additional mechanics to these quests. Some of them you might be familiar with already, such as movement ones, like the floating board in Cabarrus, and the warp saucers in Retem. Then additionally in Cabarrus, they have those ice crystals that you can explode, killing tons of enemies. On top of those, there's a thing for both sides called Photon crates. It's something similar to Lucille Exploration, but not exactly, where you can get limited time buffs that last 30 seconds, which can give an increase to attack speed with an orange colored crate, an increase to damage resistance and immunity to knockback with a blue crate, and then an increase to PP recovery with a purple crate. These, just like the enemies, spawn at set locations on certain waves, but you can actually hold them into later waves because they don't disappear once you clear the wave that they first appear in. So you might want to hold it off for more opportune times later in the quest. And one last important note about these crates is that when you do acquire the buff, it's just for yourself and not the rest of your party. However, when you do grab it, it doesn't disappear for everybody else, and they can still grab that specific crate on their own. So it brings up an interesting dynamic where maybe you split up when everybody uses that specific crate, because it's better to do so instead of just dumping it all at once where it might not be needed. That's pretty much it for the helpful mechanics in this. For the enemies, it's not anything new that you haven't seen so far yet in the game. However, how you tackle them might be different from any other quest, because all the enemies are spread out, and you may not want to stick all together as a party. You may want to start splitting up, like 2 and 2, or 1 and 3, depending on the wave. So because of this, you may see certain class and weapon combinations excel in a quest like this, but they haven't been able to before, such as ones that do a lot of AoE damage or area of effect, where you're doing a blast, killing multiple of the mobs because there's a ton of mobs, or even in certain waves where there's multiple bosses, so you can hit all of them at once instead of just one at a time. And then because you're splitting up so often, it may be more useful to have a Tector versus a Ranger if you had to choose, because the Tector's buff goes across the entire map, affecting the entire party, while the Ranger's Blight Round only applies its extra damage for those that are hitting a specific part, or if you're going to be split up 2 and 2, only 2 people are going to get that benefit, and not the entire party. You could even bring 2 Rangers, sending one Ranger to one side and another Ranger to the other side. I don't know how good that would overall be, because there are some moments where you're all coming together. Many things to consider when trying to optimize a quest like this. We won't know the better ways until this quest is out for longer. But for the easier mode, you don't really have to worry about optimization because it's overall pretty easy. And like I said, it's just the first 6 waves, so you should get this done no problem. It's mainly just the harder version where this optimization really comes into play. Because it's not just the 4 additional waves that this version has, it's also the final wave, which has a malevolent boss at the end, which takes a long time to kill. So if you don't have enough time saved up, which is about like 2 minutes for a boss like that, then you just won't fully clear it. Thankfully though, for the rewards, you don't need a full clear to get anything. It's just the farther that you get, the more rewards that you get. Speaking of the rewards, the Rayar series can drop just all those kinds of weapons. Also, the Flugelguard series can drop. I received the wires in the hard mode version. You can also get regular Anya armor and also the hybrid variants like Arga, Belta, and Sheza. So this is a permanent quest, so you can actually receive those. Don't need to rely on limited time quests anymore. You can even receive older equipment like the Verschmel series, Melik weapons, Tassaz, and Octo armor. I think out of those, the only useful one is the Verschmels because you can turn those into growth mint at the growth mint exchange. For materials, there are Giga Fragments, which are useful for its exchange, Rayar mats like Icicle Cubes and Icicle Orbs, Class Cubes, Discs for the tech customization, and then for augments, you can actually get Trial augments in here, just like the ones in the Crimson Realm. So this is a permanent quest to get those now. There's no worry about the supply like disappearing for the Guaro, Spiro, and Wardrow trials. They can get all the LC augments and miscellaneous things, but for the biggest reward in this quest is actually receiving up to thousands and thousands of Genesis points. SEGA actually raised the cap for the maximum amount of Genesis points that you can receive from quests because of this time extension, where it was 5,500, but now it's up to 50,000 per week just from doing quests like this. With that, they raised the maximum cap for how much you can hold up to 150,000 from the 100,000. And then with this, they actually added a ton of items into the Genesis Point exchange. Checking out Arche's shop, you can actually see all the new items at the top of the list, like Rayar crafting materials, tech customization discs, which also include the Omni disc, so a new way to get that besides Dread Scales guaranteed. There's Master Fragments, which is a new thing that we'll talk about in a second. Arms Refiners, Boundia, which that's a new guaranteed way to get that augment instead of just killing Gigantic bosses. That's useful for Lux Half Finale or maybe other things in the future. Photon Chunk 2s for potential 6 of weapons. And then all of the LC augments, so another guaranteed way to get that besides Growth Mint. So I'd say a huge improvement to the shop and the ways that we get Genesis points, especially for those that just don't particularly use the creative spaces and would rather use Genesis points for something like gearing-wise. But back to the Master Fragments. These you actually collect to make Master Cubes because you can now craft them with this material. To do that, you need to go to the Item Lab NPC. There'll be the bottom option, Exchange Enhancement Materials, Other Enhancement Materials, at the top of the list. You'll need 10 of those Master Fragments to make a single Master Cube. And for those of you who don't remember, you need 5 Master Cubes to use them to generate the guaranteed level 20 add-on skill for a class. And I don't know if you guys saw, but back at Arche's shop, you can only get 5 of these Master Fragments at a time. And this exchange at least has historically been a monthly exchange. So you only get 5 of these fragments a month, which means every 2 months you can get a single cube. If you want to do a generation for a class just through Genesis points, you need to wait 10 months to get the 5 cubes out of here. Hopefully they do change it to a weekly exchange if they haven't already. So then it's just 2 weeks for a cube and then 10 weeks for a full generation through this. That also just goes for everything else in here too. If like this stuff isn't really weekly and it's only once a month and you're only getting that much, like is it really that great? Like it's a bit extra, but with how many Genesis points we're getting now, 50,000 a week from the Quest Weekly thing, that doesn't really match with how much we're getting out of this shop. That's it for the changes on the Genesis points. I couldn't find anywhere else that the Master Fragments could be received as of right now, not even in the time extension quests as a drop, but maybe later they'll add some new ways to help with that. There are titles, though, that are tied to the new quest type that give straight Master Cubes. If you check the quest section, you can see if you cleared the harder mode 10 times and get an A rank or higher, you actually can get a Master Cube, and this is separate for each version. The Retem one and the Caveris one. And then if you full clear those harder quests, you get a Master Cube as well, just doing it the one time. This is also separate with the Retem and Caveris version. There's a total of 4 cubes right there. That's almost a full generation. But yeah, that's everything that I have on time extension quests for today. I personally think these are good because it uses a lot of things I've been wanting in a quest for a long time in NGS, such as 2 separate modes, where one is for casual players that still get good rewards, and then a second one which is harder for the more hardcore player base that are geared up quite well and get rewarded for it in this quest, but they're not receiving anything like exclusive out of there, just more of the same rewards at a faster pace. For the second reason, it's making use of the mechanics within the game to add flavor to a quest instead of just killing enemies, like using the floating boards, the warp saucers, and then the photon crates is a nice touch to a quest like this, can really change how you optimize the quest for that harder mode. The only downside to it all is that it's all predetermined or it's all set and there's no change to it. Once you do it a few times, it's probably going to get boring because it's the exact same every time. I think the only way to get fun out of this as it currently stands is if you like doing time attacks or speedrunning, trying to go as fast as possible and get it the lowest time to beat everybody else. Maybe they could even do an Ark's record for this kind of quest, and that could add flavor every once in a while. Let me know what you guys think about this quest type and NGS's direction in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.